C26 Coach Parker Watt is back in the building, but now in a different location. I guess you moved from Salt Lake to Austin.
Salt Lake to Austin, yeah.
I thought only Californians moved to Texas.
Yeah, still trying to get acclimated to the heat and the humidity. It's something else down here, but it's it's been good.
Awesome. Well, I guess you must have been thinking about that last time we talked. I had no idea, but hopefully it's working out. All right. Well, last year at Wisconsin, top 10 overall, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, you can smile about that. That was pretty good. Pretty good. I mean, you don't have to be too modest, man. You kicked ass out there, which is awesome. It was great to meet you there. And I guess I met you before, but it was a great day for you. Now, why did I think you've raced Wisconsin before that, right? A while ago?
That was, last year was my third time, actually.
Third time. Okay. So you got a good handle on the course and some thoughts about it for sure. So where do you stay when you come into town? Do you stay downtown, or how did that go for you?
Yeah, I stay pretty much right downtown, kind of off the square, not directly on it, but a couple blocks away within walking distance to everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love Madison. It's just such, I love the park the car, leave it, and walk to everything kind of set up. So I stay as close as possible and kind of right in the middle of it all.
Yeah, definitely a man after my heart with that. It's great to walk down there. You can, it's not too far. You don't have to walk a lot, depending on where you're at. But so you, the day before, talked about how you handle that, how you handle Saturday.
Yeah, I like to, in previous years, I've tried to kind of get there a couple days early, right? Because check-in starts, Thursday?
I think it's Thursday,
Friday. Yeah. So like if I can get there Thursday, I love that because I can kind of take care of everything that I need to in advance so that Saturday is just as chill as possible. So typically, day before the race, I'd get up pretty early and get in the water, get a little swim in, spin the legs on the bike, and then get a big breakfast in. That's kind of, I like getting all of that out of the way.
Right.
And then, it's just kind of checking the bike and dropping the bags. And I go back to the hotel and just kind of chill.
Yeah.
Are you relax?
You're just relaxing.
Just relaxing.
You don't want to risk a nap?
No, not much of a napper.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I am. It's like I spend all day. I try to get up early Saturday. I'm not a real morning guy, but I've been slowly getting there right this week, and next week I'll start waking up earlier. And then I spend a lot of my Saturday fighting naps because I just kind of want to not risk the being awake when I go to bed. So, All right. So you take your up there. We'll take our bags down on Saturday, and you're fully loaded. And you drop your bike. I mean, and then you go back and you eat a meal early after or late afternoon, I take it?
Yeah, I try to really taper back after that breakfast. That Saturday morning breakfast is, everything, pancakes, potatoes, eggs, really load up there. And then I really kind of taper back after that. I might have like a kind of smaller, maybe just like a sandwich or something, or I just kind of snack on something like pretzels. So I really try to taper that back and have like a really bland dinner after that on the smaller side.
And that's like pretty early, right?
Yeah, I try to get that in pretty early.
And I'm just curious because a lot of people talk about that and everything, but what strategically is your methodology behind eating early and eating bland?
Just something that isn't gonna upset my stomach, something that's easily digestible. I do the whole kind of pasta dinner 2 nights before and really load up then. But yeah, I'm trying to make sure that it's just not all sitting in my stomach and then, you can't fall asleep and, don't want to deal with any of that. So kind of get it out of the way early, something that'll digest easily, and hopefully get to bed somewhat early.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. So then you're in bed early, hopefully sleeping early, and then you're getting up at like 4, something like that, 4. And then you're eating again.
Yeah, I try to that kind of pre-race breakfast. I try to get in 3 hours before. So yeah, 4 sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
Get up and eat right away.
Okay.
And again,
at that time, simple again.
Yeah, usually oatmeal, peanut butter. Usually throw a banana in there and coffee.
Okay. Sounds about right. So that's 4 o'clock, and then hopefully you go to the bathroom shortly thereafter, at least once, which is always the goal, right? Yeah, I found that if I get up and do some light yoga, twisting motions, that helps me get to the bathroom, and at least once before I leave, and then in the Helix or down at the convention center, I usually try to get in there too. But anyway, so then you walk down there, and now I know that certainly you're going to be in the front of the swim line or close to it. So you get down there. Did you get down there really early, or did you bombard your way through the crowd to just?
Yeah, I think that first year I kind of got caught a little bit back and had to fight my way up. So kind of in the next couple of go rounds, I definitely made sure I got down there early so that and just kind of get up there and not stress about having to kind of fight your way through the corral.
Yeah, it kind of closes in on you quickly if you're not paying attention.
It does.
So what time does that mean for a guy like you who wants to literally be probably in the top 50 people going off, right?
So it restarts at what, 7?
Uh-huh.
I'm probably down there by 6:30, 30 minutes.
Line.
Yeah.
In line.
Yeah.
So you're waiting 25, 30 minutes to get in there. And what are you doing in that period? Are you taking nutrition in, or what are you doing?
I've kind of gone back and forth on that. Sometimes I'll take like something like a Cliff Bar or even a gel. I've gone back and forth. Other times I feel like right before the start, it doesn't always sit super well with me. So I might take in nothing. Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of using that time to get myself warmed up. So I'm not, getting in the water and having to kind of warm up in that first, 400 meters. So, jumping up and down, swinging the arms, kind of doing all of that in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Before getting in.
Yeah. So I agree with that 100%. And obviously you're going to want to go out faster than most. And cause you were probably top 10 out of the water too last year, something like that, or something like, so yeah, you can smile, man. So, but in all seriousness, like one of my challenges is because, I mean, obviously maybe people are staying away from you up front because people don't want to get up that far, so there's obviously a room to get loose because I can't, once I get in that corral, I'm just sardined in there. I can't really start doing arm circles and shit like that. So I have to kind of do that ahead of time. And then I'll force my way up to, like I was telling CJ, maybe the top third of the group or something is, I try and get up kind of as far as I can, but after a while I'm just like sick of fighting the mess and I don't like to get down there too early. So it's a timing mechanism. I don't know when you put on your wetsuit. Do you do that right away? Is that something you're in for 30 minutes?
Yeah, for Wisconsin, I'll typically, like when I go down from the convention center and kind of down to the water level, I'll get my wetsuit on because it's usually fairly cool in the morning. It might be, 50 degrees. And so I like having it on and kind of keeps me warm. So,
okay. So
I have it on for probably half an hour.
Okay. So you're all the
obviously, yeah, not all the way up, at least up on my, I'll have the legs on and then maybe 15, 20 minutes before I'll put the rest on.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, usually it is pretty cool. And so it's more about maybe staying a little warm for you or helping you warm up.
Right.
Yeah, because I was telling CJ, I'll bring down an ice water in my bottle, like a water bottle, and I'll just squirt it in because sometimes if it's too long, if I put it on a little too early, I start getting hot. So I want to
sure. Yeah.
cool it's a fine line temperature wise, core wise for me. But yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you can time that out and it can help you warm up a little bit, obviously. So that's a win.
Yeah, and it's very dependent on the air temp, right? If it's super warm out, it ends up being a warm day, then I might wait until the very last minute to put it on.
Yeah, and plus, I guess the reality is you're not in the water as long as most people. So it's like that wetsuit isn't on quite as long. So, but yeah, as far as swim strategy, and I've talked about it a lot. I usually use the first, few 100 to 500 yards. It's kind of as to find my groove. I didn't grow up swimming like you, and that's just for me. That's kind of how it works. But you're getting in there. You're probably dialed in, ready to go when you go. Am I lying here?
No, but I really try to, especially, it's a long day. And so I even have to really remind myself to dial it back that first, 400 to 800 meters, because you can get carried away pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And, I just have to tell myself to relax. And obviously you're going to feel good getting in the water, tapered and all excited. So it's tough to not go out too fast. And so I just have to, especially that, first 400 to 800 meters, really remind myself to just relax, steady my breathing, and kind of feel like I'm really holding back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I find even when I hold back, as you get more comfortable with your breathing and your arms get looser and the whole thing, you don't even really have to, or at least I don't really have to try to go harder, because I just naturally start going, I'm more confident with everything, and it just starts rolling better. And it's not like a concerted effort to just start blasting it. You just start feeling better. So, right. All right. So that's your stress. So you're going, about maybe halfway through the first loop, just trying to find your breathing and your stroke and trying to stay within yourself. But you're obviously out pretty far in front of most people. So you get a lot of people kind of hanging on to you. Are you trying to hang on to people, or how does that go? I mean,
yeah, it kind of depends on the year. I try to find feet and hang on to them. Doesn't always work out that way. And I've also been in a situation where I've been on someone's feet and they kind of start veering off in a different direction. And so that's no good either. But yeah, I definitely try to find faster feet to hang on to.
At least to warm you up, right?
Yeah.
But that's interesting. Yeah. Cause sometimes when you got up there, those fast people, and if you're not going the right direction, you can get really off course quick,
Right. And then it just negates the benefit of the trip.
How do you think about that lap? You're right. I'm assuming you're just locked on that buoy line, right? You're rubbing shoulders all the way out. Do you take the inside? Do you take inside route sometimes, or?
I'll try to on that second loop. Just when it starts getting, I'll try to kind of get it inside the buoy if they let you. But yeah, that first loop where it's pretty spread out, I'll right on the buoy line.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you, especially for maybe some age groupers that are slower swimmers, because obviously what you're telling me is, do you remember when you first started coming up on people from this that started after you? You remember about what part of the course that was?
Probably like that first turn buoy is when it started to kind of really start to bunch up, when you start to go back, and that first turn buoy to do the long leg out.
All right. So right after the first turn on the second loop, you're going on the long 900 yards out or whatever it is. And that's when it starts happening. So then you start to see a bunch of people in your way. So it's a different kind of a second lap's a different swim for you. How do you approach that? Because I ask a lot of people wonder, maybe slower swimmers, and they're like, I just don't want to get my ass handed to me and swam over and beat up and everything like that. And I want to hear from guys that are up in the front like you, how you guys handle that. I mean, I would assume you just you don't want to swim over everybody. I mean, that would seem like a hell of a effort for no stupid reason. So how do you handle? You usually swim inside. Is that what you're telling me? Is you kind of get?
Yeah, I'll try to swim inside if I can. You know, I end up sighting a lot more often, I would say, and just try to find like, you know, kind of a line and kind of zigzag through a little bit. And you know, it does end up taking up, you know, a little bit more energy to sight more, pick your head up, and so that kind of also impacts how I'm pushing the actual speed of the swim. So I might, because I'm spending more energy lifting my head up and maybe turning a little bit more, I might kind of dial back the effort to try to compensate, you know, for that.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, and when you get out to, let's see, it would be turn 3. Okay. And so you're coming back towards the finish line, and then you're still jammed up in there, obviously, with all people like me or whatever. Do you fade out a little bit off the line on the way in just to stay on the outside of that? Because the swim line or your finish would be off to the left. I mean, or do you just keep doing exactly what you're doing the whole way through?
Yeah, it kind of depends. I feel like it starts to maybe string out a little bit more on that kind of like back in. So, you know, I might still try to take the inside if possible, but you know, I feel like it's not, maybe the field isn't as wide where, you know, you have to do as much kind of like zigzagging at that point.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're coming into the swim exit, and are you the type of guy that starts to kick a little bit more to get your legs going? You do.
For sure. Yeah.
That happen? When does that happen for
you? 400 meters out, I would say.
Okay. So about halfway, over halfway down that stretch, you start getting.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're getting after it a little bit more, or are you just kicking lightly? It's like, I got to get the hell out of here kind of.
It's tough because you want to get, you know, the blood flow through your legs. And so you got to get kind of a little bit of a stronger kick going, but you also don't want to, you know, gas yourself and, you know, be gasping for breath, which can happen pretty quickly if you start kicking really hard. So kind of try to find a good balance between the two.
Okay. All right. So then you get to the exit and you're out of the water. Are you immediately out of your wetsuit, or do you get stripped, or how do you do that process?
Yeah, I use the strippers for sure.
You do? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Get the wetsuit off, especially with how long that transition run is. I think it's really beneficial to just get the wetsuit off so you can kind of run freely.
All right. So yeah, you're running up but I assume you're watching yourself running up that hill too. You're not, or are you blasted?
It's so tough to.
There's a lot of people saying, yeah,
it's the best. I love that like transition going up the helix, and you know, it's just lined with people screaming and kind of, you know, you get the echo from it being kind of covered. So it's so awesome. It's so tough to really kind of control yourself going up that. So, but yeah, I definitely try to, and just try to run as easy as possible up it.
Right. All right. So you get in transition, changed out, and run up to get your bike. What are you thinking about right then? Or you got, are you taking a gel right out of the water or something like that, or?
Yeah. So I've actually started, you know, making sure I get a gel in transition. I think that's something I've kind of fairly recently started doing, just because, you know, you are somewhat depleted after the swim, and you know, once you get on your bike and get going, you can trying to get settled in, and you can almost kind of forget, you know, it's very easy, I think, to forget, you know, the first 30 minutes or so to take something in. So I'll try to maybe get a gel in transition.
All right.
Kind of top up.
Yeah. And then, I mean, this course in a little way kind of controls the beginning of your ride with that path. And so it's almost like you have to mentally just settle and be okay with just chilling a little bit, even though on the road, a lot of people just blast it right out of the gate, you know, to get going. But, you know, probably 3 or 4 miles, or it's probably about 4 or 5 miles into it now. They have a hill that's right away. So are you trying to fuel up a little bit before you get to the stick? Or does that gel cover you for, a while?
No, I'll try to start taking in, definitely hydration at that point. And to your point, I think that's kind of a big benefit of that course is, the first, 5 miles is kind of you're weaving in and out of stuff, you're making turns, you're in a parking lot. So it does kind of force you to just kind of chill for a minute and kind of get the heart rate down and get settled in. So while it's maybe not the most interesting section of the bike course, I think it does have that benefit to it. So, but yeah, definitely starting to take stuff in as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. And you're taking, are you mainly liquid out there on the bike?
Yeah, I switched last year to pretty much all liquid. I would say like 70.3s and under, definitely all liquid. I might take in a little bit of solid food on a full, but primarily liquid.
Mm-hmm. So you're concentrated with your bottles, or I don't know. That might be too much to get into right now, but
yeah, it's and it's tough to measure that out, I think. So yeah, I'll actually have like bottles measured out, one on my back, one on the front, and then I'll put a couple in special needs too.
Okay. I guess what I asked, my main question is, without getting too deep into that, are all bottles measured the same, or do you come out with a little bit of a diluted mix off the swim? Or because I've heard of that.
They're all the same kind of, I guess, like one serving, if you will. So I won't like concentrate any of them.
Okay. So you get out on the stick, talk about the stick, how you handle that, and what you're thinking about when you're out, say, the first 15 to 17 miles before you get to the
Yes. Yeah, it's I'm focused on relaxing. And I think the swim is all about trying to relax as much as possible, hold back, and the early part of the bike is the same. It's really easy to get carried away. Your legs are feeling fresh, and so I'm really focused on trying to feel like I'm holding myself back. Like, wow, this is really, really easy now.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of when I know that I'm pacing that early section well. And you got there's some climbs on the stick out, so definitely making sure I'm managing my effort on that section and not pushing it too hard early on.
Mm-hmm. And then, so that's 15, 17 miles out to the loop. And then how long are you keeping that philosophy?
I mean, ideally, I'm trying to maintain kind of that that mindset for a while, but eventually, maybe once you get, 50, 60 miles in, what felt super easy early on is going to start feeling maybe not hard, but like kind of that, it feels like, okay, this is what I would expect for, the power that I'm putting out. So I'm still trying to maintain the same power, but the effort level maybe starts to inch up a little bit as kind of start to fatigue a little bit. Okay.
So you're trying to get through that first loop with okay, this has been fairly easy, or at least manageable through the first loop. And then you're just going to face the second loop with a little bit more effort because that's just what it's going to call for. It's not necessarily trying to put the hammer down. Right.
Right. And I'm trying to pace it as even as possible throughout the entire bike.
Mm-hmm. When you say that, you mean you're trying to keep your watts average with your normalized as close as possible?
Yep. Which is tough on that course.
Very tough.
This was all the up and downs, but yeah, definitely is kind of ride it as even as possible.
Do you remember what the variance was on that last year?
I don't. I know it was under 1.05. I definitely try to stick to that. Kind of the variance between the two.
Is that on your screen? Can you put that on your screen? Or do you just...
I don't know. I have normalized and average power though on there, so I can kind of like get a sense, and I'm just trying to keep those as
So
close as
you've got
possible.
an idea of what that normalized should not go higher than, or hopefully.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what you're thinking about that. I'm just trying to get what people think about. Like, so you're, but you're trying to keep average watts. Well, I'm sure you're kind of working up into a number, maybe at mile 60, and then you're going to try and hold that, or you try to go from your target watt from the get-go and then just hold that? Or does it build?
Yeah, I try to kind of stay within that range the entire ride. So ideally that range feels super easy early on, and then kind of as I go on, the effort becomes a little bit higher. But I'm kind of trying to stick to that range. Inevitably, what kind of happens is I might start a little bit too high, just because, I mean, it is tough to hold back early on. So, and I might drift down a little bit as I settle in. But ideally, I'm trying to keep it even the entire ride.
I gotcha. All right. So then you're done with both loops and you're coming in the stick again, and then you're like, holy shit, I thought I was done. And then, yeah. So are you, most people I talk to always say, like, if you're talking about effort went up the second loop, then it kind of almost feels like it sort of goes up for me, at least. And a lot of people I talk to on the stick, because you're just not ready for it. You're going into the wind. The hills are bigger than you remember them, going out.
You think you're almost done, but it's, still got another 15 miles. Yeah. It's a tough section for sure. Like you said, it's a lot of times a headwind, and then you got to do all that weaving with kind of some not so great pavement too, and you're just kind of wanting to be off your bike. So I'm just that point focused on trying to maintain power through that section much as I can, because I think if you get frustrated, it might be easy to kind of let that drift down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so just trying to kind of maintain effort, and really thinking ahead to the run, and kind of getting the legs spinning, a little bit higher cadence, and thinking about what I need to do to transition into the run.
Gotcha. So at that point, then you probably realize whether or not you hit your nutrition too, right? Because if you didn't, then that might still feel even harder, right? So like if you feel like you got it,
right,
it's just feeling a little bit more effort coming in. You trust the plan, I guess, is what I'm getting at, rather than backing way off. Even though it feels,
right.
Like end of an Ironman bike probably never feels easy for anybody, right? So it's just one of those things.
Tough.
Yeah, and then you come in, you see the helix. That's got to be a great sight, coming around the road, and then you get up, you climb one last time, give your bike off, and how do you feel when you get off the bike last year? I mean, like, what's the feeling? Like legs, like, oh shit.
I don't know that my legs ever feel super great. They always feel a little bit wobbly. They've been going, you're kind of having to like make a turn into the convention center, and that's a little, kind of sharp turns to get through there, and that always feels kind of wobbly.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think it's just about like knowing that that's temporary, and once you kind of get out and get running, that, your legs will kind of adjust and, loosen up a little bit. So.
Okay. And then when you do come out, how do you go about that leg adjustment?
Yeah, there's such a disconnect in that, especially that early mile, that first mile of how you're feeling and what pace you're actually running. So I oftentimes find that my legs don't feel good, and I feel like I'm not running fast, but then you look at your pace and it's, much faster than you're kind of expecting. So I think for me, it's just, making sure I'm kind of keeping cadence high, and again, trying to have that feeling of holding myself back. I think that's super important early on, especially on that run course where you kind of got to go up a hill and then you're running down State Street. So yeah, it's kind of knowing that first mile or two, there'll be that disconnect from what you feel to kind of what you're actually the pace that you're running.
Mm-hmm. And
Just
then,
being patient.
yeah. So that, I mean, obviously going down state is tricky. It's real tempting to just start running and getting long strides in there. And, you know, you really do have to keep your strides in check. Like you're saying, higher cadence is a good idea. So then how long is it usually, or how long do you think it took before you were like, all right, I'm in run mode?
Yeah, it's usually maybe after a couple miles, I would say. So once you kind of get off State Street and kind of running some of those flat roads for a little bit is where I feel like I start to really settle in and kind of that, start to, the pace that I'm running kind of starts to feel normal for what I'm actually feeling, and then the effort. So still really trying to make sure I feel like I'm holding myself back in those early miles, but that's about when it starts to feel kind of normal running.
Mm-hmm. And then what happens at, say, mile 3, 4, when you got what's going on in your mind at that point? Because I'm sure you're breaking this thing down into sections, right?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, it's making sure I'm getting hydration and calories in is really important. So just, I might be feeling good early on, and but I'm also wanting to make sure that I don't get behind on nutrition, because you can get really, you can get behind quickly if you don't, if you're like, oh, I'll just skip this aid station and hit the next one. So I'm making sure I'm hitting every aid station, and I really, that first 4 to 6 miles, I would say, ideally, I'm feeling like I'm holding back that entire time.
Okay.
Should feel, relatively easy. That's kind of my goal for that.
Yeah. I was looking at the run course this year, and I could be wrong, and I brought it up with CJ too, so I might be digging a hole, but I swear, you know how they have that, you come into the park there and you go right, and then you go over the hills and then upstate and come back, and then you do that long out and back in the park. Mm-hmm. It looks to me like the map this year has you going, because mile 5 is out in that out and back now on the map. So it almost looks like they're taking us out the out and back first and then coming back into the bike path. Does that make sense? I don't know why that would happen. And I could have been delusional when I was looking at that last night. So, but anyway, because the only reason I bring that up is because those hills hit around mile 6, I think traditionally, the hill section.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yep. Yeah, somewhere around like 5 and then 18 or something.
Yeah. So you're running up to that, like you're saying, it's trying to make it easy. And I assume you try to make those feel easy as well, especially first loop, right? And
that's a tough section for sure.
Yeah. I mean, any given day, it's a fine little section for running, but after that bike, and it's just one of those things that I feel like can really chip away at people if they're not careful that first loop, because it's a big climb, then a shelf, then a little more climb, and then down, and then back up again, and then a downhill that's pretty steep.
Yeah, and honestly, that I think you have to be really careful on that downhill. It's kind of a sharp turn, and if you push it too hard, you can, destroy your quads on the first lap. And so yeah, I think the downhill is super important and can kind of hurt you too if you push it too hard.
Mm-hmm. So then you're getting through the first loop, you're coming back, and you're probably hopefully still in that mindset, not necessarily holding back a ton, but still staying within yourself, I guess. And then you're going on in the second loop. And then how mentally is that different for you?
Yeah, I think that's kind of going out on that, once you make that turn, and again, you get off State Street. So mile 14 or whatever, 14, 15, I think that's when things start to kind of set in, and the effort, really starts to go up. And so at that point, it's kind of trying to, like I said, effort level goes up, and just kind of trying to maintain form, really. I think it's really easy also I tend to get slower, like cadence wise. So just trying to make sure I'm turning my legs over. So I'm trying to focus on that. But yeah, that's kind of the point where effort level starts to go up.
When you say effort level, is that kind of feeling like your energy is going down, or there's just pain? Do you have pain areas that you have to?
Yeah, it's more, the muscles are starting to definitely fatigue, and, you can feel it for sure.
Where do you get the pain? You mostly quads?
Quads, yeah. Hamstrings too.
Yeah, hamstrings my big thing. That's why when I go down that downhill that you said be careful with, I sometimes try to engage my quads so much just to take it off of my hammies. I find myself doing stuff like that because of the hamstring issue that I always have to battle. But all right,
yeah, I cramped up on that hill, that hamstring, coming down that hill last year. So
on the second loop.
Yeah.
So that had to be fun to fight through that. Oh, I mean, like I'm telling everybody now, it's like if we start thinking about Ironman as a spiritual experience and going through pain and learning what suffering is all about, that's easier to take that way, Yep. So, all right. So you got down the hill with how long you battled through the cramp. How did you battle through that cramp? Did you take a shot of sodium, or is there any remedy that you had, or is it just you had to back down a little bit?
I think the great thing about Wisconsin is just like the amount of support that's out there. So I think the nice thing was, you get to the bottom of that hill and you're going back up State Street where you got people all over. And I knew I had, my family kind of waiting for me there. And so, yeah, when it initially cramped up, I kind of had that brief moment of, this is going to be a long last 10K, but then I think just knowing that the level of support that's out there, and also it being a team race and having everyone out there, I think was super helpful. And just okay, start to get going again, loosen it up, and just try to it might not be as fast of a run as I was running previously, but just try to keep moving forward that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's in your mind a little bit as you're going. You got 10K left, and there's this thought of like you got a 10K left, and just kind of just bring it home, or whatever. But that really is. I'm just curious from your perspective. You have a 10K left, and I'm assuming that just means you got to tap the tank slowly, effort-wise, just to keep what you got going. You're not necessarily putting the hammer down and going faster at the end.
No, it
is about holding on, really, at that point.
For sure. 1 mile at a time. And that was very much my mindset of okay, just get to the next mile marker, just get to the next aid station, because, that's still a long way to go. And so if you think, I have a 10K to go, when you're in a lot of pain at that point, that's when things get really, really difficult. You really got to just kind of take it one mile at a time, one aid station at a time, and make sure you're still getting in fuel at all the aid stations. So that's how I broke it up, was just to get to that next thing.
Yeah. That's not a bad strategy the whole race, to be honest. Aid station to mile, click them off. I've told this story. I just want, because it reminded me of, that was my first year. And at that point, with the 10K left, I was at 11 hours. So I had a 10K, and I had this average less than 10-minute pace, which is kind of what my pace was going. And I'm like, at that moment, my buddy goes, "You only got a 10K," and I was like, I knew I had exactly an hour. So I was just doing the same exact thing, and I was on chrono actually, and I was resetting at every mile marker, and it was all hitting until I missed the last one, mile 25. So I thought I was over, and then I started walking, and maybe I missed it. And I actually went for it, and it worked. But I remember how hard thinking about that 10K was, and to try and keep a pace that for me was like pretty fast at that point. So yeah, I think that's a good lesson, to just kind of reel in and shorten everything down to miles, or whatever it may be, whatever you can do, just like landmarks, get to that, whatever, shit like that, run to the next mailbox kind of philosophy.
So, yeah.
Anyway, so how'd it feel? I mean, you came in earlier. There's probably nobody even there watching. It was like noon or something. No, I was just, it was like, was it were you pretty stoked coming up that hill, getting around that Capitol?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you make that turn and come up State Street and see the Capitol, and it's an awesome feeling. This last year, I would say, I think I was in so much pain. Hamstring was like kind of on and off, still cramping. That it was, certainly just an awesome feeling. But I was, just get to the finish line. It was kind of a rough last mile, but yeah, it's awesome making that turn and having everyone lined up on State Street.
Yeah, it's like they lift you up, man.
For sure.
But when you get to the top of State Street, then you still got to go around the Capitol. There's kind of a hill
on the entire, yeah.
It's like you don't notice that one either until you're in. But yeah, it's a great feeling. It's a great finish line. It's awesome. And anyway, congratulations on that. And you're going to Kona?
Yep. And I'll be in Wisconsin doing the 70.3 too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, great. I'll be there too, man. Well, awesome, man. Well, I think that's it. I'll let you get going back to whatever you're doing over there in Austin, Texas, hanging out with Joe Rogan or whatever. Is he your neighbor? No? Have you been down to the Mothership Comedy down there? His comedy place? Probably not.
I haven't. No. I'll have to check it out though.
Yeah, he did. He kind of started up, I think it was about a year ago or something, but a new comedy place where I guess all the heavy hitters go, just pop in all the time. So
cool.
Anyway, well, I'm glad you're settled in, and I'm looking forward to see you, I guess, next Thursday or something.
Yeah, should be a good time.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone else is going to appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
All right, man. See you soon.